Hello everybody, and welcome to 5th Gen Isn't Pokemon, your number one stop for anti-Unova propaganda, Survivor with anime characters in it for some reason, and obscene amounts of Pokemon Unite data. And today we are going to be going over obscene amounts of Pokemon Unite data. Now, in case you are unfamiliar, I have been collecting data from the Pokemon Unite rankings tab on the top 100 players since mid-September. And what I do is I go through the rankings tab, I look at the most recent ranked games those players played, and I look for whichever Pokemon they played the most in those games. And then I log that as that player's main Pokemon. So this tier list today is based upon my most recent data collected on December 30th of the main Pokemon of the top 100 players. Now, the tiers we have, there are 6 of them. They are the problematic tier. Anything that has at least 15 instances is classified to the problematic tier. Why it is called the problematic tier is because any Pokemon that is seeing at least 15 instances in the top 100 play is a Pokemon that is more than likely to be on both teams in any one game. And any Pokemon that is going to be chosen that frequently is problematic to a healthy meta. If you are having one Pokemon on every team in every game, that only opens up 4 slots for other Pokemon. And often, those 4 have to play around that one Pokemon that everybody is picking. So, if a Pokemon is picked in that problematic tier, placed in that problematic tier is because that Pokemon is problematic to the meta. The next tier we have is the dominant tier. The dominant tier is for Pokemon that are dominant, but not so much so as problematic. Next, we have the frequent tier, which is any Pokemon that's picked between 6 and 9 times. I think that it's really healthy to have a lot of Pokemon in the frequent tier, because then you have Pokemon that you can assume you're going to go against, relatively frequently, but they don't become the defining meta. Next is the infrequent tier, which has 3 to 5 picks. The niche tier, which is 1 to 2, an unused Pokemon that nobody was playing on December 30th, 2021. So, as a note going forward, if you are looking at this tier as a way to determine which Pokemon you should be playing, this is probably not the tier list for you. If you just want to see a Pokemon Unite tier list, though, man, I fucking got you. We got this. So, high-level meta, top 100 players, they play in 5 stacks. They play together, they play coordinated. It's probably not how most of you play. In fact, I have some data on that, and we'll go over it later today. But just know that this is not inherently representative of games you will be playing. So if you see something that shows up in Dominant, and you're like, oh, I never see that Pokemon, it's probably because you're not playing in the high-level meta, not because I'm lying to you. So, with that, we're going to go over the traditional jungler roles first. So our traditional junglers, we have Absol, we have Cinderace, we have Gengar, we have Greninja, we have Zeraora, and we have Talonflame. Now, first things first, the jungle is dead. Sorry, I don't know, Mufasa was fucking assassinated or something, but overall, these 6 are in a pretty shit spot. We'll go over why a little bit later, but other Pokemon have been introduced recently that have been seen in the jungle much more frequently, and because of that, we have been seeing a huge drop-off in the play among these traditional junglers. So, the first one we're going to go over is Absol. 1/2 of one player is maining Absol, which means when I collected the data, there was a tie between how often they played Absol and how often they played something else. So I just gave half a point each. So congratulations, Absol. You have half a point, which is better than last week for you, I guess, since you were at 0. But overall, Absol seemed like some level of play over the past 2 months. So this is still, below average for Absol. Next, Cinderace. Cinderace has a whole 2 friends. Good job. Now, Cinderace, I think, of all of these Pokemon, is the most, susceptible to indirect nerfs and buffs. I feel like Cinderace players, they just they're like tier-chasing tryhards. No offense to Cinderace. All offense to Cinderace players. I fucking hate Cinderace. But aesthetically. In the game, it's fine. But Cinderace often finds itself just always outdone by something, and then that thing is slightly nerfed, and then suddenly Cinderace is the best option, and then it moves around a lot. High fluctuation compared to most other junglers. And we saw that last week. Cinderace had 6 players, which was very good for Cinderace as of late. However, this week it's 2 because there are more junglers in the game again, so even though Cinderace got a nice buff, it is not enough to keep him going strong. Next one, no one plays Gengar. Yeah, shocking, right? No one plays Gengar. Greninja has 1.5 players. Now, last week Greninja saw an all-time low of 0 players, something that Greninja hasn't seen in a very long time. So a couple people have returned, but ultimately Greninja, like all other junglers, is pretty outclassed right now. Zeraora also seeing a whole 1 player. And then Talonflame, honestly the only jungler that anyone gives a shit right now with 5 current players. Talonflame has been pretty consistent in like the 3 to 6 range for players since it received its buffs a while ago. And it's sticking around. I think the fact that Talonflame can be very good at escaping situations and stealing objectives, and can use its Unite move, 57 times a match or something like that, does keep it in the running. But overall, as you can see, junglers not doing particularly well. Next, we're going to go over the traditional bottom lane attacker role. So we've got a Cramorant, got a Decidueye, we've got a Gardevoir, we've got a Ninetales, we've got a Pikachu, we've got a Sylveon, we've got a Venusaur. Now, I know sometimes these Pokemon are seen in the jungle. Normally, they're bottom lane attackers. So, this is not to say that they can't jungle, just to say that that's not their traditional role within the meta. So let's start with Cramorant. No one's playing Cramorant. Down to unused. They nerfed my boy, and it's absolutely devastating. Bring back Cramorant's ult. It was beautiful. It was great. I love hurling fish at people forever. But nope, done. Cramorant hasn't seen any realistic play in a while. And until something changes, he's going to keep not seeing play, which is really weird because early in the meta, Cramorant was very prevalent. He was, him and Alolan Ninetales, which is also at 0, by the way, were very, they saw 8 to 10 players a week, and then they just kind of tapered off and fell away, and now no one gives a shit about them anymore. Next, we have Decidueye. Decidueye fluctuates between having no players and having 1 person. This is one of those weeks where Decidueye has 1 person, so congratulations, Decidueye, there is someone playing you. Decidueye is a lot of fun, but if you aren't coordinated with people, Decidueye is really easy to kill. So the fact that Decidueye, who can be very good, is seeing barely any play in a meta that is based entirely around teamwork is kind of telling in how good Decidueye actually is versus how much fun Decidueye actually is. So, the buffs didn't really help as far as play. Decidueye just kind of fluctuates between 0 and 1 regardless. And this is a no good week for everybody's favorite edgy boy, Owl Archer. Gardevoir. Hey, remember how Gardevoir got buffed and became really powerful a few weeks ago, and then Tencent went, nah, forget about that. Well, Tencent went, now forget about that, and Gardevoir is sitting with 0 players. Very unfortunate for everybody's favorite waifu Pokemon. Gardevoir's good, much better than she was, but now that Moonblast has been nerfed, Gardevoir's ability to control the game is a lot lower. So, people who are anticipating a Gardevoir dominant meta 2 weeks ago is not the case. Pikachu. Fucking Pikachu, man. Pikachu got buffed to hell. So, Pikachu is sitting at 16 of the 100 top players, meaning basically every game has Pikachu in it on both teams, and that's a lot of Pikachu. This buff is very clearly powerful. Everybody who is playing Venusaur, let's just go over Venusaur's infrequent right now. He's down to 2.5 players. Pikachu has seen like all of the Venusaur players just migrate over. Fuck green version, yellow version's where it's at. But those buffs are doing work. For instance, Pikachu is 16 now. 3 weeks ago, Pikachu had 1 player. Venusaur has 2.5 right now. 3 weeks ago, Venusaur had 11 players. So there's that clear transition over. And this isn't just the Pikachu buffs. Venusaur's Petal Dance nerf hit pretty hard. And because most people running Petal Dance Giga Drain, even though Solar Beam and Sludge Bomb did get buffs, it's going to take people a while to kind of figure out how to utilize that in the meta if it's worth it. And there are other ranged attacker options against Venusaur and Decidueye, who is admittedly not seeing a lot of play, but this has kind of forced Venusaur to compete against different Pokemon as the bottom lane attacker. And the one other one we have left is Sylveon, and nobody is playing Sylveon. Sometimes people do. Sylveon kind of fluctuates back and forth. This is just a bad week for our only evolution in the game. The next 2 Pokemon we're going to attack are the supporters. I know there are more supporters than these two, but Mr. Mime and Wigglytuff play a very different role in the meta, so it makes more sense to include them with the defenders. Now, Blissey and Eldegoss. No one's playing Blissey. Blissey was seeing some play for a little bit, and oddly enough, Blissey's play dropped off following Eldegoss's nerf, but, that's how it works. Blissey's problem is she's a healer, she's a supporter, but Blissey is a melee attacker. And being a melee attacker forces Blissey to be in the fray a lot more than Eldegoss, who is able to give heals and give shields while staying out of the fight and being able to provide ranged attack support. So because of that, along with the fact that Eldegoss is much better at sniping objectives, Eldegoss sees a lot of play. In fact, Eldegoss is at 14 of the top 100 players, which is an increase from where it was at last week, which was at 10, and 3 weeks ago when it was at 7. Eldegoss generally stays in dominant, sometimes in problematic, primarily because it's the only group healer with ranged abilities. I don't think that's inherently a problem. I don't think Eldegoss inherently needs a nerf. I think Eldegoss just needs real competition, and Blissey is not providing it because Blissey's kit is so much different. Eldegoss has been seeing increase in play over the past couple of weeks, likely because we've been seeing a decrease in the play of Pokemon that are well known for their sustain. Because if you have a meta where every Pokemon is able to heal and shield itself, you don't need a healer and shielder. But the Pokemon that were doing that are seeing less play now than they had been, and we'll go over that eventually. So that's where Eldegoss and Blissey sit. Next, the defenders. We have Blastoise, we have Mamoswine, we have Mr. Mime, we have Slowbro, we have Snorlax, and we have Wigglytuff. Weird shit has happened with this group. Blastoise sitting at a comfortable 0. Unfortunately, Blastoise's nerfs have hit him pretty heavily, and he flirts around with between niche and unused at this point. Damage output isn't there. Crowd control is, but doesn't super matter right now, which is odd given how much crowd control you need to deal with Serena, but it's how it is. Next, we've got Mamoswine. Mamoswine is sitting in the niche tier with 2 whole players, which for Mamoswine is pretty fucking good. Mamoswine is probably the best at taking players and moving them somewhere else, which is very valuable in a game. Yeah, that's a hot take, right? But yeah, Mamoswine moves people around. He's very good at it. He sees infrequent appearances on the tier list, so we'll see if this holds or if those players go back to Blastoise or something. Mr. Mime. If you asked me last week, Mr. Mime is in the tier he should be in, frequent. This is not last week. I don't know what the fuck happened, but Mr. Mime dropped not to infrequent, not to niche, but all the way down to unused. Mr. Mime went from 7 players to 0 players. I don't know if there was a nerf I was uninformed of, but this is the first time Mr. Mime has clocked 0 in a while. And even though he is very good at dealing damage and very good at controlling crowds and very good at not dying, doesn't really matter. No one's buying what he's selling this week. Next we have Slowbro. Slowbro also chilling at 0 players. I like keeping them in alphabetical order. It's very important to me. Now, nobody wants to be Slowbro, I guess. He did get a retool that some people have interpreted as a buff. I honestly, there were too many words. I didn't want to read it, but that's what happened. Slowbro was seeing a couple players last few weeks, but he has dropped back down to 0, and he like with most defenders, he fluctuates between unused and niche, because while defenders used to be very prevalent in the game a while ago, they aren't right now, and they're all just floating between unused and niche. Next, Snorlax. Snorlax is in the infrequent tier with 3 whole players. Congratulations, Snorlax. Of the traditional defenders that are actually defenders, he's still doing the best. Snorlax has been in the meta basically the whole game. He was very frequent early on, and then he tapered off, and now he generally flips between niche and infrequent as people kind of decide whether or not they want to, play him or someone else. And that someone else is, of course, Wigglytuff, who is sitting in the dominant tier with 10 players. Now, Wigglytuff was bad, and then she got buffed, and then she was broken, and then she got nerfed, and no one played her for a while, and then everyone decided she was still good, and then she became dominant again. And then they again nerfed Wigglytuff, this time just her Unite move, and that has done absolutely nothing to her ability to just be played by so many people. Wigglytuff is great early game in securing those lane kills. Wigglytuff is great at crowd controlling with Sing, and Wigglytuff is great at just fucking around, faffing about, ruining people's days. And because of that, Wigglytuff sits in dominant tier as the premier lane defender pick, even though she is a supporter. Next group we're going to go over is the all-rounders. There are 6 of them now. I can't even keep track. So, I just kind of gave the all-rounders their own group because, all-rounders, they have very different uses. Except, of course, Charizard, who nobody plays. And Garchomp, who nobody plays. And Machamp, who nobody plays. They don't matter. They aren't real Pokemon. So we're going to go over Dragonite, Lucario, and Serena. Dragonite is a problematic boy. 18.5 players going for Dragonite, down from 19, but, does that matter? Most people think the issue with Dragonite's prevalence was he was a new shiny toy. And of all the newest toys, he was definitely the shiniest in that he's fucking Dragonite. But people are making it work using, Hyper Beam's really good. Dragonite's Unite move is great for spamming Buddy Barrier and also stealing objectives from across the map. So you can do a lot with him. And he's seen play in jungle. He's seen play as a bottom lane in the bottom lane. He's seen play sometimes in the top lane. I swear, because I was trying to watch high level videos before I did this, and I saw some people doing Dragonite in top and is like, fuck's wrong, whatever, do it, I guess. Everyone's playing him, why not? Though he's still not the primary top lane player. That is, of course, Lucario, who is also... Wait, where was Lucario again? Lucario is only dominant this time. Lucario is sitting at 15 players, which is still a lot. Which is and is honestly a low for Lucario. Lucario normally hovers between 18 and 20. So the introduction of Dragonite and Serena have eaten into the Lucario player base a lot. But when it comes down to it, Lucario does what Lucario does, and you cannot really stop him. So he's staying in top tier until they honestly nerf his attack stat, because nerfing's dead fast. While it has helped, it has not done a lot. Next we have Serena. Serena is down to 4.5 players. Serena, when she came out, she was at 11.5. And she just kind of dropped down 7, 4, 4.5 since. Serena has a lot of sustain. She's pretty good. She can jungle. She can bottom lane. I've seen both of those uses for her. But, I mean, with the introduction of Dragonite, with Lucario, she's still not the best all-rounder. So she doesn't see as much play as the more prevalent ones. I know, I'm missing 2 Pokemon. Well, I'm missing 1 Pokemon, because as we all know, Crustle is not a Pokemon. It is a war crime, so we'll just put him there. Oh no, out of order. Yeah, Crustle's not a Pokemon. No one's playing Crustle, that's fine. The last one we have is the anti-meta pick of Greedent, and Greedent is sitting at 3.5 players. Greedent was pretty consistently 6 to 8 until the Dragonite release, and now he's down to 4 and 3.5. Greedent does whatever the fuck he wants. You want to steal someone else's jungle? Greedent will do that. You want to play top lane? I mean, sure, if you're drunk. You want to do bot? Let's go. Greedent doesn't give a fuck. He runs around the map, he distracts the enemy team, he scores constantly. It's his thing. And that thing is decreasing in usage, it seems, as though Greedent is competing against Pokemon of other classes. So with that, here is the current tier list of the high-level meta for Pokemon Unite. But we have more. So, as you can tell, there's a problem here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 Pokemon that are used compared to 13 that are unused. Now, 16 used Pokemon is about the average of used Pokemon throughout this meta, this game. But it's been decreasing. Last week we had 18. 3 weeks ago we had 22. So we are seeing a tightening of the meta. And I believe that is clear in how many Pokemon we have. We have Toon problematic, Lucario who's barely dominant. But we have this big clustering of these 5. A drop off, and then some Pokemon that are seen sometimes. So the meta is consolidating around your, I guess, jungler of Dragonite, bottom lane attacker of Pikachu, top laner of Lucario, bottom lane defender of Wigglytuff, and bottom lane support of Eldegoss. That is kind of the dominant composition. And then sometimes people play Talonflame. Sometimes people play Serena, sometimes whatever. I would not be surprised if we saw further consolidation given the current landscape. Because normally when the game starts doing this, it keeps doing this until we have a new balance patch or a new Pokemon introduced. Now, this could be a problem with just Dragonite being fun and shiny. And we might see some recalibration as Dragonite stops being fun and shiny. But as it stands, we have 5 very clear winners. 11 kind of theirs, and a lot of losers. If you want to look at the... so this next one, this is another tier list. This takes into account the historical moving average of the Pokemon as well. So I've taken the Pokemon's most recent numbers and then averaged it with their moving average, which was their last 10 numbers over the last 10 weeks. And from here we see a little better representation of how Pokemon appear. Because the one problem with how my data is collected is I'm only doing mains. So if someone plays Venusaur 6 times and Cramorant 4, Venusaur gets a point and Cramorant does not. This also creates situations where if you are a high-level player and you're testing out something, like maybe you played Sylveon 6 games just for shits, and it happened to be when I was recording data, Sylveon gets a point when your main was Absol. So by averaging, I capture a lot more. I'm able to control for those blips a lot more. And this is a more representative tier list of where we're at and where we've been. And it still has the problematic dominance. We have something infrequent in Serena, but there's a lot more Pokemon moving around, and I thought it was fun to look at. So this is also here. And finally, at the mid-season break, I did a poll on Reddit. We got 250 responses asking people what Pokemon do they play as, how do they play, what's their rank, etc., etc., etc. Because I think it's valuable to get information on the community. So while I'm not going to go over all of that information right now, because there's a lot, and I have like 8 spreadsheet graphs, and that'll take a while to explain each of them, we are going to go over what Google Sheets will show me, or what Google Forms will show me. So of the 250 responses from the Reddit poll from our Pokemon Unite, most people are Masters. That makes sense. Anybody who's going to click a thread about the top 100 Pokemon Unite players' main Pokemon are probably fucking tryhards. And we can see that here. 56% are Masters, 18% Ultra, 15% Veteran. So, people who are into Pokemon Unite are into Pokemon Unite. They are trying to climb. Who would have fucking thought? Next, do you normally play ranked in solo or with do you play ranked in solo or with friends? Let's ignore that I can't ask a question properly. But most people seem to be doing solo queue. 72% solo queue to 28% playing with friends. And I think that's gonna be the biggest break between how you see teams you play against versus these like higher level metas, because they're able to organize and do 1-1-3 splits, something you can't necessarily do if you're solo queuing. And it looks like, I don't know, maybe the Pokemon Unite community just needs to make more friends. I don't know, but most people doing solo queue. I primarily play with friends. I think it's more fun that way, but you do you. Which Pokemon have you played in ranked the most? This is all but unreadable. But as of 2 weeks ago, it was Wigglytuff and Venusaur seemed to be the most used. With this is not a readable graph. Okay, the next data we've got, depending on which Pokemon you said you played the most, I displayed your movesets and you chose which one you played with the most. So we're going to go over that for all of the Pokemon. So for Blastoise, everybody runs Hydro Pump Surf. Cool. You get a lot of control. It's a good combo. Let's roll. Blissey is primarily Helping Hand Soft Boiled. The one fucking mad lad is running Egg Bomb for some reason. And they're probably drunk. I don't know. But I think that probably signifies that all of my data is bullshit. If someone said they're running Egg Bomb as Blissey, why does Blissey have Egg Bomb? Please replace that with a more interesting move, for the love of God. No one's running Safeguard. I do play Blissey sometimes. I like Safeguard, but especially if you're solo queuing, Safeguard's hard to utilize. Like, if you're running Safeguard, you need to be certain that whoever you're playing with has a score shield, and you also have to run a score shield. Because part of what makes Safeguard so good isn't just, that shield in combat and the unstoppability, but like being able to utilize it with score shield to dunk. And just isn't the setup for that to work. Charizard players mostly Flamethrower Fire Blast. I don't play Charizard, so whatever. Cinderace players was Pyro Ball Flame Charge. I know Blaze Kick got buffed right after this poll, so this is probably going to be different. Cramorant players are Undecided Little Twats. Crustal players, it's Shell Smash Stealth Rock. Again, this is an older poll, so at this point, Stealth Rock's no longer crits. I don't think this is the same loadout. But what I find interesting is there's no Rock Tomb X Scissor, which to me makes sense as a combo, because you set up the Rock Tomb, and you just X Scissor them into it, and you've trapped the opponent. It's really easy to dive on them. But, nope. It's just, I don't know. There's a Rock Tomb player, which is why I'm upset. Next is Decidueye, Razor Leaf Shadow Sneak. Cool. Eldegoss. 75% of these players were running Leaf Tornado Cotton Guard. The other 25% are Pollen Puff Cotton Guard. I main Eldegoss. I do Pollen Puff Ceiling. Then I realized it was just more fun to be able to keep everybody alive. So I swapped. And I'm happy I swapped, because now Leaf Tornado has been nerfed. So I'm really curious how Eldegoss's loadout is going to look now that Cotton Spore is better and Leaf Tornado is worse. That being said, Cotton Spore still fucking sucks. Garchomp is just Dig Earthquake. Gardevoir is primarily Moonblast Psyshock. So we can see if that moves around. Gengar is an even split between Sludge Bomb Hex and Shadow Ball Dream Eater. Nobody's doing any fancy Shadow Ball Hex or Sludge Bomb Dream Eaters. Green only has 2 players. Greninja, all 14 players are Water Shuriken Double Team, which is interesting. I remember earlier on in the meta where people thought like Surf and Smokescreen were better, and that's not the case anymore. Lucario, nobody's running Close Combat. 70% of Lucario players are Power Up Punch, Bone Rush. The other 30% are doing Extreme Speed instead of Power Up Punch. Bone Rush is just really good. I haven't played Lucario. I don't know how anything about him works, because I hate Lucario. But, yeah, it's pretty clear how they plan. Machamp only has 3 players. It's mostly Cross-Chop, Submission. Nobody's running Close Combat, which I guess makes sense. If you're able to get Cross-Chop and get up to Cross-Chop Plus early enough, you're really able to just snowball your attack stat and kill everything. No one's playing Absol. Swine, mostly Icicle Crash, high horsepower, makes sense. You can high horsepower them into the Icicle Crash for extra damage. Cool. Nobody's running Ice Fang, high horsepower, which I run because it's the most crowd control-y option. Because someone can be, attacking Rotom or Dreadnought, and I can Ice Fang them behind me, and then I can high horsepower them away from the objective. And that is a lot of fun. Mamoswine's ability to high horsepower dive an opposing team to knock all of them away from the objective while your team secures it. Like, sure, you fucking die, but you get so much out of it, and it's so much fun. Next, Mr. Mime. Now, I was surprised, too, that not 100% of Mr. Mime players were Confusion Barrier, but there is a mad lad out there running Confusion Guard Swap instead, which, I mean, that's one way to make friends, I guess. Ninetales is primarily Avalanche Blizzard, and then every other build has equal representation. Pikachu. Again, Pikachu got a buff, so I don't know how relevant this is, but everyone was running Electro Ball, and then it was even between Volt Tackle and Thunderbolt. Slowbro had 1 person, they're running Surf Telekinesis. I mean, as someone who tried to make Scald Amnesia work for far too long, yeah, Surf Telekinesis is better, I understand. Snorlax. Now, Flail Yawn Snorlax is a fucking meme, and I thought it was a joke, but 42% of Snorlax players are running Flail Yawn at this point. So I guess we've just forced it to become reality, I guess. Another 50% are running Heavy Slam block, and then the remainder are running Flail and block. Block's really good. It's so good at just pushing the enemy team away to ensure whatever you need to do happens, or separating them so your team can just eat somebody. Sylveon has equal representation between every combination that is not Hyper Voice Draining Kiss. Talonflame is primarily Flame Charge Fly, and nobody is running Flame Charge Brave Bird. Serena as Triple Axle Grassy Glide at 83%, and no one's running Stomp Drop Kick because nobody really wants her to step on them. I guess that fetish just isn't here. Venusaur. Almost everybody was running, and this is the problem with Venusaur. I think this is why we saw that huge Venusaur drop. Because again, this poll was right before Petal Dance got nerfed. 95% of Venusaur players were running Giga Drain Petal Dance. And the one that's left was running Giga Drain Solar Beam. What we are likely to see is those Venusaur players, moved Pikachu as their option is gone now. Like, it's not as good. And the people who are running Solar Beam were non-existent. So, that's just... I think this just shows why Venusaur's so fucked. And Wigglytuff. Now, if you're curious which is better between Double Slap and Dazzling Gleam, this poll isn't going to help you. Because it's almost a dead even split between Double Slap and Dazzling Gleam. I go for Dazzling Gleam because I like the stun, but Double Slap just feels so much more satisfying. And if you're running a scope lens because you're insane, you get a lot more triggers. So 48% Dazzling Gleam Sing to 44% Double Slap Sing. And then one person each taking Double Slap Rollout and Dazzling Gleam Rollout. So, I don't know who's running Rollout, but good for them, I guess. And then we have Zeraora, mostly Volt Switch Discharge at 62%, 25% running Spark Discharge, and nobody running Volt Switch Wild Charge. And then, let's see, which lane do people most regularly play their Pokemon in? We saw a really even split here between how it should look, where we have almost 30% bottom, almost 40% bottom, almost 40% top, almost 40% center. Last time I did this poll at the end of Season 1, top had a lot higher representation. It was like 45 to 35 bottom, which is because people who are competitive in this game and play solo queue are more likely to play top lane because then they have more control over someone rotating to bottom to dread. That's how the data played out in that last time, was the higher rank you were, if you were in solo queue, the more likely you were to play top lane over bottom. That was how it rolled out. I haven't done that level of analysis this time. I don't expect it to be as prominent. But, yeah, we're seeing pretty even loadout this time. Which held item do you use the most while playing your Pokemon? Obviously, at some point, we'll do the breakdown again of item usage to Pokemon. But what we're seeing here, Buddy Barrier is still very dominant, 62% of players. Muscle Band still very dominant, 53% of players. Focus Band still very dominant, 49% of players. Score Shield dropping off, it's down to 36. Choice Specs pretty high at 18 now. Scope Lens still chilling at 22. So we're seeing some items really drop off. Primarily Scope Lens, primarily Score Shield. And a couple other items maybe seeing a little bit more play. I think Wise Glasses is higher than it was. I'm certain Choice Specs is. Muscle Band is also higher than it was. But yeah, we are seeing, early game, when Pokemon Unite first came out, there was a lot of instability upon which items were good. And I'd say within a month or so, the consensus became Buddy Barrier, Focus Band, Muscle Band. A little after that, people started realizing Score Shield was good, and then it kind of became Buddy Barrier, Focus Band, and then Muscle Band or Score Shield. And now we're seeing Muscle Band kind of reclaim that ground against Score Shield, at least in this data. Which battle item do you, 72% of people run eject button. I asked this, it just seemed fun, but so almost everybody's running eject button. We've got some X speeders, some full healers, a couple potion users, very few in X attack or slow smoke. Fluffy Tail. I'm honestly surprised Fluffy Tail is only at 3%. That seems like a more niche item that's like useful. And same with Goal Getter being at only 1%. Like those seem like items that I would expect a little bit more out of, but I think eject button needs to either get nerfed again or go away. Because this is just, why even have other items at this point? And then, which 3 Pokemon have you played the most during the season? So, the question earlier was which Pokemon do you main in ranked? This time it's which 3 Pokemon do you play the most to get like a better feel. And obviously we're seeing a lot of Venusaur, a lot of Wigglytuff, a lot of Serena, very little Gengar, very little Cramorant. And we'll touch on this in a later episode or whatever we want to call these, but there's that data if you wanted it. And then finally, which 3 Pokemon have you played the most overall? This is different because from the last is, this is the midpoint in Season 2. So these are Pokemon they've played the most in Season 2. These are Pokemon they've played the most of all time. Still a lot of Venusaur, still a lot of Wigglytuff. But we're seeing other Pokemon here that aren't prevalent now. They used to be prevalent in Blastoise, Cinderace, Greninja. See a lot of Lucario, see a lot of Eldegoss. I mean, we saw a lot of them here too. But yeah, the point of having both these sets of data is when I break it all down, we'll be able to compare like which overlaps we have here compared to which overlaps we have here and how those drop-offs or increases have occurred. But that's a later time thing. That is it for this episode. So here's the tier list again. Fucking Dragonite, man. Whatever. Anyway, have a great whatever the fuck it is, everybody. Happy 2022. And, Pokemon Black White suck. Peace.